Welcome and welcome back to a new Unreal Engine video. Today, since I was looking over my videos and I noticed that the grappling hook was doing fairly well, I think we would do a little special New Year's treat and create a new one. Yeah, so we have a basic first person project. You can see that we've got some nice decorations here to test this out. This is some nice stuff. All right, so how are we going to do this? Well, as you know, we're just in a simple first person project, and this is the default weapon component. We can open this right up. And this is all that we're really going to need. And you're going to see that we have a lot of variables over here, but a lot of them should look familiar if you're familiar with cables and things like that. So some of those variables there. Some notes is that this actor impact cache is a vector actor map. And then of course the cables is a list of cables, things here, and then you've got like materials for your cables and various cable things, grappling hook stuff. So like I said, this was a default the weapon component, so you have their basic begin play. It's all the same stuff here as your basic stuff. Yeah, nothing surprising there. The other thing that's new though, there's a few things that are new. So instead of doing the shoot here, it's slightly different. We're swapping this around to do some line traces and things. And this targeting is a custom one. It's basically just copied the shoot and then set up this for T. I use T for targeting. But what does this do? Now you're going to see there's a lot of stuff here. So what does this do? Obviously, this you can see where we set up the cable component. It's so long. There's so many properties. So what does this do? So we'll start in the targeting. So basically what happens in the targeting is when we press T, we'll do a flip-flop. And what's going to happen is going to go through A, and we're going to basically toggle the targeting. So this targeting, that's used for up here for when we're doing the shoot, which is tied to the mouse click. So when we do that, we're going to set up the time dilation here. And so we're going to set up a global time dilation to 0.1. So the entire world's going to slow down to 0.1. And then we're going to take our first person character because it saves it as a reference here. And we're going to set that to the same as this world time dilation. Although if you do it like this, if you set up this one, you can actually inverse the character's time dilation, i.e. you can make the character move at normal speed doing it this way. So when we do off the B on this flip-flop now for this targeting, what we're going to do is we're going to reset that time dilation, and we're going to reset the character time dilation to just to 1. That means normal speed 1. And once you're done, once we end targeting and set time dilation to normal, what we're going to do is we're actually just going to do a sequence here. So there's a sequence here that does two things. One of them is going to go through this actor impact cache, and this actor impact cache is actually fairly self-explanatory. It's up in this shoot here, this function or the import here. So basically we're just going to check to see if we're targeting. If we're not targeting, basically, we're running at normal speed. We don't need to do this. But when we're targeting and we're running in time dilation mode, we can run these line traces from the camera. Now, of course, I set up a variable for your trace length and things like this. We set up some actors to ignore, and we set up what we want to target for our line trace. It's a fairly standard line trace, but for every hit object, we're just going to store that into the impact cache, where it's the impact point, and then the hit actor, and that's pretty much it. So that'll be the shoot. When we target, we activate targeting. We'll activate time dilation mode. Then once we're done targeting and doing all of our point calculations, that's kind of what it's doing here. Then we'll go down here. We'll set up the cables for each of those impact cache here. We'll add that cable component. We'll add it to a list of cables because we'll want to clean up those cables once we're finished with them. We've got the world location set up here. We'll set up that end attach point to the first person character. We'll make sure that the end offset, this is a little misleading that it's an end location. This is actually an offset. So we want to set the offset to 0. Then the cable length, this is 0. This way it doesn't slack or anything, so it's nice and tight. We've got the cable gravity scale. This is this you need to disable so you can keep so the cable doesn't pull down. Then we have the cable width. This is just a variable you can set up cable width. We'll want to enable stiffness just to make sure that the cable doesn't like flop around everywhere. And then the solver iterations, which is basically like how much subdivisions do you want your cable to be. And you can play around with this number. I set it to 10 for example purposes. You do want to set an absolute scale here, or else the cables will scale with the what you're attaching it to. So just make sure the absolute scale is set. And then you set up a material, which is a variable, and so you can just set that up however you like. Then off the second sequence here, we are going to just set the movement for the character to flying, and that's it. And then we're going to set up this pull counter. And what this pull counter is going to do is just going to set up to, well, initially we're going to set it to 0.5, right? And then in the tick function here, yeah, we're going to do some ticking. In the tick function, we'll check to see if this pull counter is greater than 0, basically, so if we're active, and then we'll subtract the delta seconds. So we're just creating a timer. It's a timer using the tick instead. And so now what we want to do here is if that pull counter after we subtract the delta seconds is less than 0, then we can set this pull counter to 0. We'll set the movement mode to falling for the character, and then we'll just do a sequence here where we just clean up the cables and we clean up some of the caching here, and that'll be it. Then if we are still greater than 0 after we subtract this pull counter, then what we want to do is instead we want to go through each of these keys, and we are effectively just going to create a force here. We're going to loop through them all. We'll calculate the difference here. We'll normalize it just to get that vector, and then we'll multiply it by these this cable strength multiplier. Now, when you're using a force, because a force is over a tick, you tend to need very large numbers. So this cable strength is actually the one that you want to modify. So I set this to 5, but this strength multiplier is like, what is this, 500,000 or 100,000, something like that. The force runs over a tick, so you need very large numbers. You can play around with it just to get a feel for it, see how you like it. But that's pretty much it. So the general overviews will enter targeting mode with a slowed down time dilation. We will use the mouse, we will use our shoot command to gather point locations for this caching. And then when we're done targeting, we'll just loop through, create cables for each of those points, set up some various properties, and then we'll set the movement to flying. We'll set the pull counter to half a second, so it'll run a half a second, and then while that pull counter is greater than 0, it'll just go through and just set up the forces and things like that, and then clean up everything at the end. So now if we see this in action, we can go in here and fire it up. Now, of course, this is the default project, so if we just grab this, now if I go into targeting mode, you can see the line trace fires off there, and then we'll fire it off over there. And now if we end targeting, it'll pull it towards us. Now, we activate it again, we see we're falling time dilation mode. We're frozen. You can kind of maybe see that we're still moving. But then we'll activate that and we'll do it again. Now, what's nice about this system is you can have as many cables as you can hit. Yep, there you go. Maybe wasn't a good example, but you can kind of get the gist of it. And then, yeah, time dilation, swing, time dilation, swing, time dilation, swing. And you can have as many points as you want to just grapple around with. So, thanks for watching, guys. I hope you found this helpful, and I'll see you in the next one.